To measure the volume, you will need a tape measure, and you are going to need to first measure from the inside to the opposite inside edge lengthways. That's 25 centimeters, but obviously if you wanted to do it in inches you could. And to measure the actual depth or the height, I like to use a piece of paper because, as you can see, I can't quite see the numbers correctly there. And I'm not sure it's accurate when I place it down since this thing moves a little bit. So I take a piece of paper or a piece of card in this case. I will place it flat against that edge there. Then take my pen and just run it right parallel across there. And that will give me the exact depth. And then I can measure it. And that is about 0.5, 0.6, 0.7. It's almost 0.8, but I never like to go that deep up anyway, so I'll say 0.7. So to make your life a little easier, you can use an online calculator that does all the work for you, and all you need to do is to determine the radius of your round shape, and you do this by dividing the diameter by 2. You simply add your radius plus the height of your mold, and that will give you the volume, and this is in milliliters. If you wanted to calculate fluid ounces, you would do the same thing using inches. So the radius in inches and the height in inches. Copy that total volume, click on the next link, and you're going to convert from cubic inches to fluid ounces. And the total on the right is how much fluid ounces of resin you would need for that round shape. Now, in case you had an irregular shape, and I'll draw it for you since I don't have any, such as a geode with a centre bit, and let's say the centre bit is there and all this bit is hollow, and you just wanted to measure the volume around there, you would do this. You would measure the inside bit first by the longest length and the longest width. So in this case it's 8 by the longest width around there is 10, so that's 8 by 10 centimeters. You would do the same thing for the outer edge, so you would measure the longest length there, which is 23, and figure out where the longest length is there. Looks like it's 25, so by 25. And then you'd have to work out the depth, and whatever that depth may be. So for example, both of these depths is 0.6, 0.6. Then there's that sum minus that sum first. So in this case it would be 8 times 10 times 0.6 would give you the answer there. 23 times 25 times 0.6 would give you the answer there. Then you would minus these two. So your total volume here in milliliters would be the biggest part, and then minus from that the inner part. So 345 minus 48 gives me 297, and that's how much volume I will need. So I will round it up to around 300 milliliters, and that's how I know how much I'll need there. For a square shape, you do the same thing. You measure from the inside to the inside, lengthways and width. And then you can do the same thing. It depends, if you're just doing one of these small trays, you can decide how high you want the depth. So I will do it about there. And that will give me 0.2 to 3. Let's say 0.3 just in case. It's always better to make a little more resin than not enough. So to calculate the volume for this, I would need to times the length by the width, which is 16 times 15, and then times by the height, which is 0.3. And that gives me 72. So that's 72 milliliters of resin I would need for this shape and 0.3 height. If you had a mold, it would be the same principle. You would measure the width by the length and then the height. Same way, take a piece of paper, place it flat against it, draw your line, and then you can measure it, and that's 0.567. To make your life a little easier, you can use an online calculator that does all the work for you. So in the description box below, I've given you the links necessary, and all you need to do is choose your metric system on the right, put in the length, the width and the height of your molds, and this online tool will calculate the volume for you. So when it comes to molds that have this type of shape, in this case it's one of these Druzies, and in this case it's a collection of crystal clusters, and it came from this mold. It's very difficult to measure sort of the width, the depth, etc., or the height. So what I do is I do a first cast. So here are all the bits that go for this, and I'll measure it, simply measure it. And it says it's around 27 grams, so I'll round it up to around 30. So I know that that's 30 grams. And then I will do the same for the Druzie, and that says 26. So I could put around 30 as well. I like to round it up. And that's how I know how to measure these particular shapes when it comes to molds. You could do the same thing with any type of mold that you have. Do a casting first with resin, let it cure, take them out, and then you can measure all of those, and that will give you the exact amount that you need. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you in my next one. Take care, bye.